Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name's Luisa. My creativity is fueled by many things, nature being a big one, but music, poetry, and travel are hugely inspirational for me. But I think one of the most influential of all the influences is color. Colorful beads, colorful subscriptions, and the magical mystery bead box for the month of October was bursting with color, and that's what inspired the necklace that I'm going to be showing you how to make today. But I think what really inspired me was the name of one of the bead mixes in that collection. The bead mix was the Mykonos bead mix after one of the Greek islands. And when I first saw that name, I got visions of a beautiful, colorful necklace. Now, if you're not familiar with the Magical Mystery Bead Box, I'll leave a link down below. But it's a bead mix that's put together by the Jesse James Beads design team. And every month they come out with the most gorgeous collection of beads. But I couldn't resist all the gorgeous colors in that collection. There were 10 total. I'm actually going to be using 6 out of the 10. So it's definitely going to be a very colorful necklace. So anyway, guys, that's the plan for today. As always, I will leave some timestamps down below in case you want to skip forward to any portion of the video. Also, if you stay till the end of the video, I will announce the giveaway for a necklace that I made back at the end of October using the curated bead box for the month of November. I don't know if you guys recall, but it was a long beaded necklace. So I thought I would leave it till the end because I'm very anxious to jump into the tutorial. So let's go ahead, turn the camera around, and we'll get started. Okay, let's go ahead and select the beads. Here's the box. We're going to need this beautiful fuchsia fedora package, the firewhirl, this is the red one, the leprechaun, which is green, the rhodonite, which is a bluish color, illuminating, obviously that's yellow, and we're going to need the Mykonos bag. I love this color blue. This is what inspired the necklace. Let me move the box. So we're going to be selecting beads from these packages. Let's go ahead and pick the pink ones first. So from this collection, we're going to use one of these flowers. We're going to definitely use these drops. I love these drops. Look how gorgeous these are. And I think we're going to use 3 of them. There are 4 in the package, but we're going to use 3. Now the bag came with these little ones, but we're not going to use the rondelles, which are really, really pink in color. We're going to use these reddish ones. These are Crackle beads. I'm not sure how many we're going to use, but I'm going to pull out 6 of them. I also want to use a couple of these bead caps because I want to put them on the focal bead. And I want to use some of these beautiful gold spacer beads, and it came with 4 of them, so let me just pull all 4 out. I don't think I'm going to be using all of them, but I'll pull them out just in case. And that's it from this collection. Let me put these away. I like using these clips on these bags, so it saves me from having to staple them when I'm working with them. Let's go ahead and pull out the yellow ones. I want to use these beautiful faceted cubes, and so let me pull out 4 of them just in case. Maybe 6, it depends on how many components we build. I definitely want to use these other little yellow 6mm beads. These are so gorgeous. Let me go ahead and pull out 6. And I love these large frosted beads, so I'm going to pull out 4 of them just in case. So I think this is it from this collection. I can always come back if I need anything extra. Let's go ahead and pull out the red beads. I am so tempted to use a lot of these beads, but I really need to control myself because I need the colors to be balanced. So from this collection, I definitely want to use these beautiful bicones. They're pretty large, and I think I'm going to pull out all 4 just in case. I definitely want to use these rondelles as well. I love these. So let me put all 6 aside. And I think that's it, even though I love these rectangular ones. But I'm going to save these for another project. Let's go ahead and get the green beads. I love these lava rock beads, and I love the size, so I'm going to pull out 4 of them. I also like these little tiny 6mm ones. Let me go ahead and pull out all 6. And I love these beautiful faceted cubes. So I'm going to set aside all 4. And that's it from this collection. Let me get the beads from this rhodonite collection. So from this collection, I think I'm just going to use these drops here. I love these drops and I love the color. There are 4 total, but I think I'm only going to use 2 of them. So let me go ahead and put the rest away. The reason I'm not using any more is because I've got that gorgeous Mykonos Blue that I'm going to be using. And we're definitely going to be using a lot of these blue beads. Definitely the lava rock beads. I love the color of these. They're so gorgeous. And I love these little tiny rondelles. I think I'll put 6 aside, even though I know I'm not going to be using all 6, but just in case, you never know. And I definitely want to use this gorgeous satiny blue bead. I love how it's drilled, and I'm going to use this as a focal. I definitely want to use these frosted blue beads as well. Look how gorgeous these are. I'll go ahead and put 4 aside just in case. And I definitely want to use these melon beads in this gold color. Look how beautiful these are, guys. Oh my gosh, I love these. I want to use these to add a little bit of brightness to my design. And these will look really nice with these beads right here. So I think that's it for now. I may come back and get more if I need more. Just look at all these beautiful colors. I love colorful designs. I really do. Now these little flower tassels are really cute. I love these. And I went looking in my stash to see if I could find some other Jesse James Beads flower tassels, and I found these 2, this blue one and this yellow one, which match perfectly with the yellow and blue from this collection. So I'm going to go ahead and add these 2. So I've got a total of 3 flower tassels, as you can see. I went looking for other gold beads as well, and I found this Tibetan style tube beads, and I also found this bale bead. So I'm going to use this one to hold the focal, and I'm going to use these other ones to embellish the rest of the necklace. And they go really nicely with these beads and those beads. All right, let's go over the rest of the materials. You're going to need some leather cord, and this cord is 1.5 millimeters thick, and it's a round cord, as you can see, metallic in color, and it's a bronzy color. And you're only going to need a piece that's about 8 inches long. Let me go ahead and cut it now. I'm cutting at 8.5 just in case. It's always a good idea to cut a little bit extra just in case you make a mistake. We're going to be attaching some fold over cord ends, and sometimes they don't go on really well. And when that happens, you have to snip it off and start all over again. So if you're a beginner, I recommend that you cut yourself a piece that's a little bit longer than what you actually need. We're going to be using some beading wire, and this is Beadalon. It's 7 strand, and the reason I'm using this is because it's the only one I had in my stash. I know Jesse James Beads carries Beadalon in different colors. This one's gold, and I believe they carry it in 19 strand as well, and even 49 strand. But like I said, this is what I had in my stash, so I'm going to use this one. It's 0.38 millimeters thick, or 0.015 of an inch. And I'm going to cut myself a piece that's about 24 inches long. And again, I'm doing that because I want to make sure that I give myself a little extra. I'm going to be using a bunch of these size 8.0 seed beads, and this color is matte medium bronze. Now this is going to sound silly, but I'm going to need 2 of these size 6.0 seed beads, and these are bronze in color. And I will show you why later on, but I'm only going to put 2 aside. To connect the layered necklace, I'm going to use these rings, and these came, I believe it was the April 2020 box. No, I'm sorry, April 2021 box. The name of the box was Animal Instinct, and I never did get to use these rings. They're not cut, so they're not jump rings, they're actually just rings, but I love the twisted design. So I'm going to use these to connect the 3 strands that we're going to be making for the necklace. I'll also be using some jump rings, and these are bronze colored, as you can see, and I have 2 sizes. I have a 6mm size and a 4mm size. I'm also going to be using some crimp beads and some wire guards and some crimp bead covers. The wire guards are actually optional, you don't have to use them, and mine are gold because I didn't have any bronze colored ones, but since we're using some gold beads, it should be fine. You'll need a clasp of some kind. I'm using a lobster claw clasp. I'm going to be using some flat head pins, as you can see. These are bronze colored. I'm going to be using some 20 gauge wire, and this is artistic wire, tarnish resistant, and as you can see, it's a gold color. I'm going to be using some chain for one of the layers of the necklace, and as you can see, they're long oval links, so it's not a dainty chain, but it's not large either, but you can use any kind of chain as long as it's bronze colored. I'm going to be using some fold over cord ends, and I got these on Amazon. They come in different colors. I'm going to be using the smaller ones. I think they measure 2 by 4mm in size. They're not very big at all. All right, the first thing we're going to do is put together the focal piece, and I'm going to use this beautiful bead, as you can see, and the bead caps and a bail. I'm going to cut myself a piece of wire about 3 inches long. We're going to form a wrap loop, so you want to grab the wire at the top like this, about 1/3 of the way down, kink it, Reposition your pliers like this. Wrap the end around the nose of your pliers like this. Flip your pliers around. Continue to wrap the tail to the back like this. And now we're going to attach the bail. Let me open this up a little bit so I can fit the loop of the bail inside. Like this. Close up the loop again. Now I'm going to grab the loop with a set of pliers, and I like to use these by Xeron. These are actually crimping pliers, but I like the tip because it's very thin. And then with another set, these are also by Xeron, I'm going to grab the tail and do a couple of wraps. Snip off the excess. And then tuck the little end in. So this is what you should have. Now we're going to thread on a bead cap. This beautiful diamond shaped bead. And the other bead cap. Like this. And now grab the wire at the top of the bead cap, and you want to make sure that it's nice and snug. Like this. Make sure the bottom loop is lined up. Kink the wire like this. Switch to this portion of your wire. Wrap the end around. Flip your pliers around and continue to wrap to the back like this. Remove your pliers. Grab the loop. And then with another set, do a couple of wraps. And you want to make sure you fill in that space so that the bead caps are nice and snug. So if you need to do more than a couple of wraps, by all means do it. I want to make sure my bead caps aren't flopping around. Snip off the excess. And then tuck the little end in. Line up your loops if you need to. And this is what you should have. And now I'm going to build some dangles for the bottom portion, and I'm going to use these beads. So I'll be using my head pins, and these are very hard head pins, so I'm not going to do wrap loops. I'm just going to do simple loops. So basically, just go ahead and thread a bead on like this. Kink your pin just a little bit above the bead like this. Snip off the excess, leaving yourself about 3/8 of an inch. And now with a set of round nose pliers, grab the pin so that it's flush and form a loop. You want to make sure the loop is nicely closed. Adjust it if you need to so that it sits properly on the bead. And this is what you should have. So I'm going to do the same thing with the rest of these beads, and I'm going to speed up the video and I'll meet you back. Okay, I'm back. As you can see, I've put together all the dangles and I have a 4mm jump ring. I'm going to go ahead and open up the jump ring, and I'm going to attach this large bead to the bottom like this. And now I'm going to attach it to the bottom of this focal like this. Close it up. Make sure there are no gaps. And now that that's connected, we're going to think about where to connect these dangles. And since these are simple loops, you can just open it up like this and connect it wherever you want. So So I would say experiment and see what looks good, okay? You can always change it. I'm going to put this little one on the bottom of this loop here, the one that's at the bottom of the bead. Close it up. Lay it down to see how it looks, and then just continue to connect your dangles. As you can see, you have 3 places where you can connect them. You can connect them to this loop, the jump ring, or even the loop of this large bead here. As you can see, I want this large bead to be at the bottom, so I place this larger one at the top. Whatever you do, just make sure that it's balanced, okay, and it looks good. And like I said, you can always switch them around if you're not happy. So this is what we have so far, and I'm pretty happy with it, so I don't think I'm going to change anything. Now we're going to connect these flower tassels, and it's pretty easy, guys. These are actually open loops, so you can actually open them up like this. And I'm going to connect them to this side of the loop. They're all going to be on the same side of the loop. As you can see, here's the bail, and there's the loop of this component here. I'm going to connect all of them to this side of this loop. So once again, open up your loop and connect it anywhere on the front of that loop. Just make sure that you close it really well. And we have one more. So this is what we have so far. Isn't that adorable? So this will actually be the front of the pendant, okay? I don't necessarily want the tassels to be up against my chest. I want them away from my chest. So that's the reason why I put them all on this side of the loop. Okay, so now that we've built the focal, we're going to go ahead and work on the bottom strand. I'm going to be using these seed beads. I'm going to have some groupings of colored beads. In between the groupings, I will have the seed beads. So I think what I'll do is set aside groups of 3 beads of each color. So here's one group, for example. Here's another group. And here's another group. As you can see, if you put them side by side, they're about the same length. To make my job easier, I'm going to use my magic rods. And if you don't have these, don't worry, you don't need them, okay? I just use them because it makes the job easier and quicker for me. And if you're curious about these rods, I do carry them in my Etsy store. I'll leave a link down below in case you're interested. So let's go ahead and start with one. I'll put some seed beads here, a little pile. And I'm going to start by loading some seed beads, and that's one of the reasons I like these rods. It just makes it so quick to pick up seed beads. I don't know how many just yet, but I'm going to start with maybe 10 and see what that looks like. So here's 10. And now let me go ahead and load one of these combinations of colors and see what that looks like. Let me load another 10 seed beads. And let's see what that looks like. That looks pretty good so far. And now I'm going to go ahead and put a gold bead on. And another 10 seed beads. And now let's see what this looks like. That looks pretty good. But I think what I'm going to do is maybe reduce the number of seed beads so that there isn't so much space in between colors, because the next grouping is going to be a color. So before I go any further, let me go ahead and remove some of the seed beads. I think I'm going to remove 2 seed beads from each section. So instead of having 10 seed beads, I'll have 8. So that's pretty easy to do. Let me go ahead and offload this. Remove 2 from this end. Put my gold bead back on. Load 8. So now we have 8 in these 2 sections. Let me remove 2 from here. Before I do, let me put my stopper on so I don't lose the beads. Go to this end, remove 2 seed beads, and put my stopper back on. So I think the spacing is a little bit better now. Let me go ahead and load another color. I think I'll do yellow. And 8 seed beads. Bring it down. That looks good. And now I'm going to load one of these melon beads and another 8 seed beads. And that looks really good. I love that. Let me move it down a little bit. And now I'm going to load one of the blue combinations. And that looks really nice. Let me go ahead and put a stopper on. One of the things I like about these rods is that you can bring those stoppers in to hold the beads snugly up against each other. And of course, the fact that you can thread little beads with big beads is a real plus. You can't do that on a beading board. You could do it, but it wouldn't be very accurate. So I'm going to go ahead and load another rod. This is the 9-inch rod. I carry another size. I carry the 12-inch rod, but I'm using the 9-inch rod today. So I'm going to need some more rods. So here's my other rod. And I'm going to continue the pattern of loading 8 seed beads. And now instead of a melon bead, I'm going to use one of these shell-shaped beads. I think that's the shape. I don't know, it could be something else. And now another 8 seed beads. Bring it down. So now let me go ahead and put together a combination of green beads. Another 8 seed beads. And now one of the melon beads. Let me add some more seed beads to my pile. And I'm going to add another 8 seed beads. Now my colors are going to be random, so I don't want to repeat the same order of colors. So let me go ahead and go back to the red right now. And I can always change this later on when I go to thread the beads. And now 8 seed beads. And now one of these shell-shaped beads. And 8 more seed beads. And this is what I have so far. I really love that. Let me put my stopper on. So this is basically how I'm going to design the lower portion of the necklace, the longer tier. So I'm going to load some more rods until I come up with the exact length that I want. So let me go ahead and measure them. Each one is about 6 inches. So I'm going to continue to load some more rods until I reach the desired length. Now the overall length of my necklace is going to be approximately 30 inches, but this lower portion of the necklace is going to be between 18 and 20 inches long. So I'm going to continue to load some more rods until I feel I've reached the desired length, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I've loaded my rods, as you can see, and it was pretty easy because, like I said before, it's really easy to pick up seed beads with the rods. But the other nice thing about these rods is that it's really easy to offload them from the rods onto the beading wire, and I'll show you how to do that later on. But these are my 2 strands, as you can see, okay? So let me just go ahead and thread them onto the beading wire just to get that out of the way. Here's my beading wire. I have the 2 rings. And here I have 2 crimp beads, 2 wire guards, and 2 crimp bead covers. I have my 2 size 6/0 seed beads, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with them in just a second. And I have the pendant. We're going to thread that on. So what we're going to do now is attach the ring to the beading wire. So we're going to thread on a crimp bead, and we're going to thread on a wire guard. And like I said, the wire guard is optional. You don't have to use it. So you're going in one end And now take the tail and go in the other end, like this. And now take your ring and you're going to thread that on so that it sits inside the wire guard, like this. Take the tail of your beading wire, thread it through the crimp bead, like this. Bring everything down, make sure that it's nice and snug in that little channel of the wire guard. And you want to make sure that your beading wire is sitting parallel inside that crimp bead. And now using the deep divot of your pliers, you're going to place your crimp bead inside, like this, and give it a squeeze. And this is what you should have. And now we're going to turn it on its side. If you're using Zurong crimping pliers, you'll see 3 different size notches. I'm going to choose the one in the middle. So I'm going to place the crimp bead inside the middle one like this. Make sure that it's sitting on its side inside that channel and give it a squeeze. And that should fold up that crimp bead. And this is what you should have. I always like to use the small channel to tighten up that little fold. And this is what you should have. I'm going to snip off some of this tail. I don't want so much tail. Sometimes I snip off the entire tail, but I'm going to leave a little bit on there to thread through the beads. But before we go any further, we're going to go ahead and attach a crimp bead cover. Like this, and then very carefully close it up. I like to use these crimping pliers to close up my crimp bead covers, but you can use chain nose pliers. Just make sure that you do it gently and you don't dent or damage your crimp bead cover. And I like to go all the way around the bead so that it's nice and round. So there it is. So this is what you should have. I'm going to start by loading the top of the necklace. So this will be the part that's up near the ring. So let me go ahead and remove the stopper. And this is what's so neat about these rods. I'm going to grab all 8 of my seed beads all at once and thread them right onto my beading wire. Just like that. Slide them down, and then these I do offload one by one because I want them in this order. I don't want them backwards, if that makes any sense, but you could thread them all at once if you wanted to. So this is the top of the necklace by the ring, okay? And now I'm going to continue loading my beads. So I'm going to remove the stopper, and once again grab all 8, thread them on. I find this so much easier than trying to pick up seed beads with just the beading wire. So let me go ahead and thread on the blue beads now. Bring them down. As you can see, I have a large bead at the bottom. That's how I want my beaded components to appear, with a large bead at the bottom and a small bead on the top. So once again, offload my seed beads. Sometimes I do drop one. And for this bead, I want the bottom part of the shape to be facing down and the skinny part of the shape to be facing up towards the clasp or the ring. So I'm going to thread it like this. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so here's your ring. And I'm heading downward towards the pendant, and that's how I want this bead to appear. So let me continue. So here's the segment that's going to be up against the pendant. I'm going to remove one of these and I'm going to place a 6/0 in its place, and I'll show you why in just a second. So this is what you should have. Let me show you why I did that. Here's the pendant. This bail has a very large hole, as you can see, and I don't want my seed beads to slide in, so that's why I'm using a 6/0 up against it. So this is what it looks like. Okay, so once again I'm going to thread on another 6/0 seed bead at this end of the bail, like this. I'm going to go ahead and get my next set of beads, and I'm going to remove one of the 8/0 seed beads and load these other 7, just like that. Let me show you. So this is what I have so far. Okay, and I'm going up this way now. So I'm going to continue loading my beads, and this one's actually oriented properly so I can grab all 3. And thread them on just like that. Okay, I'm back. I've loaded all my beads, as you can see. Now you do want to make sure that the tail at this end is tucked inside these seed beads, okay? So before you go and crimp off the other end, make sure that the tail is tucked in. Move all your beads down so there are no gaps. Thread on a crimp bead, and now thread on your wire guard. Go in one end and down the other end, like this. Take your other ring and slide that into the wire guard like this. Bring everything down. Take the tail now and thread it through the crimp bead and through a few of the seed beads, and slide everything down. Once again, you want to make sure there are no gaps before you crimp it off. You don't want it too tight either, okay, because you want some movement, okay. Now it's very difficult to see if your beading wire is crossed inside of that crimp bead, okay. But generally, once you do that U shape, it separates both strands pretty easily. Go ahead and close up these little legs if you want to. And now we're going to go ahead and create that U shape. Just like that, okay. And now place your crimp bead inside one of the 3 channels and go ahead and squeeze it to close it up. Tighten it up if you need to. And this is what you should have. Snip off the excess beading wire. And now we're going to attach the crimp cover. Very gently close it up. And this is what you should have. Okay. So this portion is done. I love how it looks so far. Now we're going to work on the second tier. We're going to use these teardrop shaped beads and the leather cord, 2 fold over cord ends, 2 4mm jump rings, and your 20 gauge wire. We're going to cut off some pieces of wire that are about 3 inches long, and you're going to need 5 of them. You do want to make sure that you straighten your wire before you go any further. And now we're going to create a little 90-degree angle kink, and we're going to do it a little bit off center. So I'm just eyeballing it, okay? Go ahead and give it a kink like this. You want to make sure it's nice and sharp. Take one of the beads and thread it through the longer end like this. Go to this end now, and you're going to do another kink. So you want to get as close to your bead as you can and do another kink right here, like this. So this is what you should have, okay? Now you can measure the length if you want to, but I'm going to leave myself about 1.25 inches. So what I would recommend that you do is to go ahead and do all of them before you go any further so that they're all identical. Okay, so once again, take your wire, make sure that you straighten it before you work with it. Grab the wire a little bit off center, give it a kink like this, take a bead, thread it onto the long end like this, and go to this end now and give it another kink. So this is what it looks like. And then I would get the other bead and just put it up against it, make sure that my wires are all the same length. And then if you want to, you can go ahead and hold it up against your other bead and just snip off the wire so that it's the same length, okay? It's up to you how you want to do it. You can certainly measure them, each one of them, with a ruler. So now I've done 2, as you can see. I'm going to do the same thing with these 3, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I've done all 5, as you can see. I am going to be using these Bead-A-Lawn memory wire pliers, okay? But if you don't have these, you can certainly use your round nose pliers. It's just going to be a little bit more difficult because of the tapered end. But this end, as you can see, this barrel is straight, and that's why I'm using them. And I'm going to use the small barrel, which has a diameter of about 2 millimeters. So let me show you what we're going to do with these. I'm going to coil each one of these prongs. So basically, you put your wire in between the barrels like this. Make sure that it's flush. And then very carefully start coiling. It's as simple as that. And you want to make sure that the wraps are very close to each other, okay, side by side like this. So I'm going to go all the way down till I get to the top of the bead, basically, like this. Remove the pliers. And I'm actually going to snip off this little piece here. So very carefully use your flush cutters and snip off the first coil like this, okay, so that the cut portion of the coil is facing downward. And because it's in the middle, it won't poke your skin and it won't snag your clothing. So that's important, okay? Now we're going to turn around and do this side. And we need to make sure that we coil it in the same direction as this one, okay? So this time I'm going to put the small barrel facing me, make sure that it's flush, okay? And then go ahead and start coiling. Just like that, okay? And now let's go ahead and snip off the little end. Straighten the coils if you need to. And this is what it should look like, okay? Pretty easy. And since this barrel is 2 millimeters in diameter, the 1.5 leather cord should fit right through those coils. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing with the rest of them, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I've coiled all my beads, as you can see. Let me show you again. As you can see, I snipped off the outer coil right at the bottom there, and that gives me 3 wraps per side. So as long as you started out with prongs that were 1.25 inches long and your barrel is 2 millimeters, you should be able to achieve the same number of wraps. If you have a different kind of plier with a different size barrel, you may have to adjust that. But as you can see, all of them are done the same way. And now we're going to go ahead and attach the fold over cord ends. Now if you'll notice, the leather cord has a natural curve, okay? But I'm going to work with this curve the best way I can, all right? So what we're going to do next is attach one of these fold over cord ends. But before I do that, I'm going to add a little bit of glue at the bottom of this fold over cord end. I like to use GS Hypo Cement because it has a thin applicator. So I'm simply going to add a little bit of glue, not too much, just a dab. You can barely see it. And now you're going to take your leather cord end and place it inside like this. And now with some pliers, you're going to go ahead and fold over one of the sides. Just like that. And then fold over the other side. Flatten it out the best way you can. I like to use nylon coated pliers to smooth out any rough edges. Now we're going to go ahead and thread these beads. We're also going to thread these Tibetan style beads. And we're going to place them in between the coils and then one at the end like this. So this is how we're going to thread them. And now we're simply going to thread them onto the leather cord. So you're going to start with this Tibetan bead here. And now we're going to thread the teardrop shaped bead with a Tibetan bead in the middle like this. Just like that. So once again, take your teardrop shaped bead and the Tibetan bead and thread your leather cord through the coils and through the bead. Just like that. Very, very easy, and like I said before, as long as you use a barrel that is 2 millimeters in diameter, you should be able to achieve the right size coil for this leather cord. I guess I had an extra one there that I didn't need. But I will show you once I get these threaded what it looks like. So here we go. We actually have 7 of these Tibetan style beads. So one in between the coils of each of these drops and then one on each end. So we didn't need this 8th one. So now we're going to go ahead and attach this fold over cord end in the same way that we did this one. But before we do, I want to measure the length because as you recall, I cut myself a length that was a little bit longer than 8 inches. And if it's a little bit off, it doesn't really matter. Okay, but I just prefer mine to be exactly 8 inches. So mine's a little bit longer than I want. So I'm going to snip off this little bit at the end. I'm going to go ahead and apply some glue. Just a little tiny dab. Take my leather cord and place it inside. And just like before, I'm going to fold over this side. And then fold over the other side. Smooth out the edges. And this is what it looks like. Isn't that cute? I love these beads. And it looks adorable with this necklace. This is actually going to be the first tier. The second tier will be a piece of chain, and this will be the third tier. So now we're going to go ahead and cut a piece of chain. And my piece of chain is going to be about 13 inches, maybe 13 and a quarter. And these links can actually be opened up. I don't have to cut them. Just like that. And I'm actually going to use this link. I'm not going to use a jump ring. I'm just going to connect it right to the ring like this. And close it up really well. Make sure that there are no gaps. Now before you connect the other end, you want to make sure your chain is not twisted around or twisted up. We'll do the same thing again. We'll open up this link. Connect it to the ring. and close it up. Now to connect this piece, we will use some jump rings, and this is a 4mm jump ring. So we're going to go ahead and open it up, hook it onto the fold over cord end like this, and then hook it onto the ring like this, and close it up. Now this one, you do want to make sure that it's perfectly closed because the fold over cord end loop is pretty thin and it could slide through if there's a gap. Okay, so here's another jump ring. And now we're going to do the same thing, hook it onto the cord end and then hook it onto the ring like this and close it up. So this is what we have so far. Isn't that beautiful? Let me slide it up so you can see the whole thing. There's the pendant. I love that pendant. It's such a colorful necklace. It's so pretty. Now I have to decide how I'm going to finish the top of the necklace. Initially, I was just going to use some chain, but I think what I'll do is create 2 more strands with these same seed beads. But before I do, I have to figure out how long I want the strands to be. So I'm going to take this to the mirror, hold it up to my chest, and see how much more I need to finish the necklace. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I've decided I'm going to create 2 5-inch strands, and I'm going to use seed beads like I said earlier. I'm going to cut 2 pieces that are about between 8 and 9 inches long to give myself room to do the crimping. I have my 2 pieces of beading wire. I have 4 crimp beads, my wire guards, and 4 crimp bead covers. I'm going to load these seed beads onto my rods. Here's my rod, and I'm going to go ahead and load 5 inches worth of seed beads. Let me go ahead and measure it before I go any further. It looks like I need to remove 1 seed bead. Let me secure it with my stopper. And now that I have 1 rod loaded, I'm going to load a second one, and I don't need a ruler. I'll just hold this one up against that one to make sure it's the same length. And that looks about right. Let me go ahead and put my stopper on to make sure I don't lose the beads. And that's another nice thing about the rods. The stoppers hold the beads up against each other so you can get very precise measurements. So now that I have the rods loaded, I'm going to go ahead and crimp off one of these pieces of wire. So let's go ahead and load on a crimp bead. Like this. Thread on a wire guard, and then thread the tail through the other end, like this. Thread the tail back through the bead, the crimp bead, and you want to slide it all the way down, like this. I like to bring my little legs together like I said before, but you don't have to, okay? And now I'm going to go ahead and create the little U shape, like that, and then fold over your crimp bead like that. Attach your crimp bead cover like this, and then close it up gently. Try to get a nice round shape. And now I'm ready to load the beads. So now to load the beads, you simply remove the stopper, take a section of seed beads, and thread them right onto your beading wire like this. It's so much easier to do it this way with rods versus trying to pick up seed beads with just a beading wire. So here's my strand. And now I'm going to go ahead and finish this side. So once again, thread on a crimp bead, thread on a wire guard, and before you go back through the crimp bead, you're going to go ahead and thread it onto the ring of the necklace. So here's my ring, and I'm just going to thread it through, slide it into the wire guard like this, bring everything down, and now you're going to take the tail and thread it through the crimp bead and through a couple of these beads. I'm going to thread through maybe 3 or 4. Pull the thread and get rid of all the gaps, okay? Just like that. Let me go ahead and bring these little legs together a little bit. And now I'm going to go ahead and create that U shape on my crimp bead. Like this. Turn it on its side. And then fold that crimp bead over. Like this. Snip off the excess. Slip on your crimp bead cover like this. Close it up. So this is what we have so far. Now you could always just attach a jump ring onto that, okay? You don't have to go to the trouble of trying to slip the ring into the wire guard. But I like the idea of not worrying about a jump ring, okay? We have this jump ring to worry about, but you know, like I said, as long as you close them properly, you should be okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and create the other strand in the same way that I did this one. So let me do that and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. As you can see, I've attached my second strand. Everything is crimped. The crimp covers are on, and now I'm ready to attach the clasp. So very simply, grab a jump ring, open it up, attach it to the loop of the strand like this, attach your clasp like this, and close up your jump ring. Make sure it's nicely closed. Same thing with this one. Open up the jump ring, attach it to the loop, and close it up. So this part's done. Here it is. Here's the top. As you can see, I have my beaded strands up there, my seed beads. And then the first tier is this leather cord with these beautiful drops. And then comes the second tier, which is just chain. Here's the third tier with the pendant. And I absolutely love these colors. They're so gorgeous. And because it's so colorful, that's one of the reasons I decided to use the bronze seed beads. And the gold beads add a little bit of brightness. Okay, so they're just accents. Now, if you're wondering about the lengths, as you can see, it's super, super long. The longest strand here measures at about 30 inches from the clasp to the pendant, not including the pendant, okay? And I think from the bottom of this chain to the clasp, it's about 22 inches, and this one's about 19 inches. But anyway, guys, I'll make sure that I leave the 3 different lengths down in the description of the video. So anyway, guys, that's the necklace. I hope you like it. I'm going to go ahead and put it on and show you what it looks like, and I'll be right back. I am a sucker for colorful necklaces, and I don't care if they're long, short, minimalist, statement. It doesn't matter to me as long as it's colorful, and this one is definitely colorful. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Now, before I let you go, I need to announce the winner for the giveaway, and this will only take a few seconds. So congratulations again to Vicky Gonzalez. I'm so happy that I was able to give away that necklace. So Vicky, please contact me so I can ship you your necklace. I'll leave my email down below. And if you didn't win this time, don't worry, because I will have more giveaways coming up real soon. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.